I want to welcome everybody for coming out today for our presentation. We're here today for the announcement for the kickoff of the Harpeth River and the Cumberland River feasibility studies. My name is Roger Lindsay. I work with Metro Water Services. And I serve as the section leader for the Development Review Group. And in that capacity, found myself involved in the effort for permitting of reconstruction of almost 5,000 structures in Nashville after the historic flood of May of 2010. During that flood rehab process, we began work with a number of federal partners, but none more prominently than the Nashville District or the Corps of Engineers. We've worked hand in hand with the Corps through these last 3 years, and through the entire development of the Nashville Safe flood forecasting tool, the development and modeling of all the up-to-date and more accurate flood maps, which we'll begin to see and start reviewing this fall. Through the early conceptual stages of the studies of our major waterways and creeks and streams and rivers. And that really constituted the first phase of this work, of which today represents a continuation. The kickoff of these two studies represents the ongoing work, the hard work of the cities and the counties that have been involved in this work since the May flood. And this work that we launched today represents the feasibility study phase that will position our cities and counties to qualify for matching federal dollars as funding becomes available. I'm going to serve as your MC today. This event is very much a celebration, and I thank you for your attendance today. We will have the Nashville District Commander speak first, and then each of the mayors from Franklin, Brentwood, and Nashville, and a representative from Williamson County. I'd like to ask that you please hold your questions, and at the conclusion of this event, we'll have different subject matter experts available at the different displays around the room that can answer any specific technical questions you may have about this project. It's now my pleasure to introduce to you the first speaker, Lieutenant Colonel John Hudson, the District Engineer and the Commander of the Nashville District, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Lieutenant Colonel Hudson assumed command of the district in July of 2013. He manages water resources development and navigable waterways operations for the Cumberland and Tennessee River basins. Land that covers more than 59,000 square miles, with 49 field offices touching 7 different states and a workforce of over 700 employees. On the Cumberland River, he is responsible for the district's operations and maintenance of 10 multi-purpose projects for navigation, flood damage reduction, hydropower, environmental stewardship, and also recreation. First, Colonel, it's a pleasure to welcome you and your family to the Nashville area. This is a great place to live, and as you can see from the relationships that we have with our sister cities and counties, and the collaborative work that we each enjoy with your staff, together we function as a high-performing team. So with that, Colonel, I turn the lecture over to you.
Thank you, Roger, and good afternoon. It's an honor to be here today as the Nashville District officially kicks off 2 flood risk management feasibility studies for the Cumberland and Harpeth rivers here in Middle Tennessee. I'd like to thank Ms. Charlotte Jackson from Senator Alexander's office for your attendance today. I'd also like to thank Mayors Crossley, Dean, and Moore, and for taking the time to participate today as well. I'd also like to thank members of numerous federal, state, and local agencies, to include Mr. Joe Horne of the Williamson County Community Development Office, Mr. Scott Potter of the Metro Water Services, Mr. Paul Sloan, the Cumberland River Compact, and Ms. Dory Bowles from the Harpeth River Watershed Association. Thank you as well. As all of you know, Middle Tennessee has had numerous flood events in the past years, and a great deal of effort has been made to respond and recover from these events. The Corps and our non-federal partners have also worked to mitigate damages from future storm events. We're here today to ensure key basin stakeholders, to include natural resource agencies, are aware that these 2 studies, along with the ongoing Mill Creek study, are underway. Stakeholder input is critical to successfully complete these studies. After the flood of May 2010, the Corps conducted an after-action review with the National Weather Service, U.S. Geological Survey, the Tennessee Emergency Management Agency, and the Tennessee Valley Authority. All lessons learned from these events have been incorporated into the way we operate and communicate with each other and with the public. The Corps has also performed extensive hydrologic and hydraulic modeling along the Cumberland River and its tributaries. That modeling and resulting flood area mapping have been instrumental in helping various agencies and communities to plan for future stormwater events. We have also developed a post-flood technical data report that describes the May 2010 event and its damages. The Corps went on to conduct reconnaissance studies for the Harpeth and Cumberland Rivers. The reconnaissance studies confirmed a federal interest in pursuing more detailed feasibility studies. The feasibility studies are critical as an early step in the Corps' project development process. A multidisciplinary team of engineers, urban planners, environmental scientists, archaeologists, economists, and real estate specialists work closely with our non-federal partners, natural resource agencies, and other basin stakeholders to identify an economically justifiable solution that is complete, effective, efficient, and acceptable. The primary problem to be addressed is obviously the concerns on flood reduction, but opportunities to restore aquatic ecosystems will also be explored where appropriate. The project delivery team will meet in the near future to schedule public workshop scoping meetings to identify water resource problems and opportunities throughout the basin. These public meetings are critical as an early step in shaping the direction of these studies. It is important to understand that the Corps does not implement any solution to mitigation flooding without the buy-in and support of our partners. It is equally important to know that no predetermined solution to flood risk reduction has yet been determined or proposed. That is the purpose of the feasibility studies. Possible solutions listed in the previously mentioned reconnaissance studies, to include structural and non-structural measures, will be further investigated and their merits determined and weighed. It is not often that the Corps participates in studies with 4 different local governments in one study, as in the Harpeth River study. It is truly emphasizes the need for a regional approach to reduce flood risk management in the basin. So on behalf of the Nashville District and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, I thank you all for coming today. And I look forward to the public and agency input throughout the conduct of these studies. Your input is critical to developing a solid study, enable us to have the best effect on the river, both from an ecological perspective as well as a flood risk reduction. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel Hudson. Our next speaker today is the Mayor of Franklin, Ken Moore. Dr. Moore practiced orthopedic surgery for over 28 years and gained wide recognition as a leader in his field. Initially elected as an alderman at large in 2007, Ken has served as vice mayor, and in 2011 he became the City of Franklin's 31st mayor. He has made jobs and economic development a major focus of his administration, and has led the city in the development of a long-range water infrastructure project that is intended to meet the needs of the city for the coming 35 years. Mayor Moore was an early advocate of sustainability and was instrumental in leading the successful effort to make Franklin one of the top 25 sustainable cities in its class. I have personally enjoyed a working relationship with Mayor Moore during my ongoing tenure as a member of the Franklin Planning Commission. Please welcome City of Franklin Mayor Ken Moore.
Thank you for the kind introduction, Roger. And I wanted to go back on your earlier comments when you said that you would have some experts around at the various kiosks there to answer technical questions. And I'm glad that you didn't include me in that list of technical question answers. And Colonel Hudson, it's so nice to meet you and welcome Franklin as one of our new residents. And we're glad that you're taking this study so seriously that you moved to Franklin to concentrate your efforts. The May of 2010 flood created devastation throughout the Harpeth River Basin and was a direct result of 2 days of rainfall that totaled 18 inches. The Harpeth River reached a record crest of 35.11 inches, breaking an old record that was established in 1975 of 33.6 inches. Within the city of Franklin, 449 private structures were damaged, and 85% of those were residential. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers estimated $60.6 million of direct economic impacts upon our city. During and following the May 2010 flood event, I was truly proud of our city team, our emergency personnel, and our community's response to the disaster. When the Harpeth River reached dangerous levels, our team took quick action, closing roadways and rescuing citizens who were trapped inside their vehicles and also their homes. Our emergency personnel rescued 398 people during the flooding event. Our fire department was responding to an explosion in a residential area where flames were shooting into the air 35 feet. And crews fought side by side in waist-deep water to prevent loss of life and additional property damage. Some of the neighborhoods hit hardest in our community were Fieldstone Farms, Rebel Meadows, Ewingville, Old Liberty Pike, Lancaster Drive, and pockets along Lewisburg Pike. Our city team worked with many federal, state, and local agencies to establish resources and havens for our citizens who were displaced from their homes. On a more personal note, there was a nationally sanctioned horse show in Franklin with 600 horses at that time. And our residents and our city staff rescued all 600 horses and relocated them to the Act Center there in Williamson County. Following the flood, and while it was still raining, our public works teams were out starting to collect debris from the flood and damaged structures. In addition, it was very touching to see the outpouring of volunteerism that occurred in our community from our churches, organizations, and just individuals that showed up with food and offers to help clean out impacted properties. The Harpeth River watershed is one of the greatest regional and national significant areas in our country. Franklin is currently the largest population center within the watershed and also utilizes it as a water source. Our team is encouraged by the preliminary reconnaissance study compiled by the Corps, and we truly hope to identify with both flood risk management and ecosystem restoration solutions are available within the basin. I'd like to commend the Corps of Engineers and the other agencies for partnering to address the numerous water resource challenges within the basin. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor Moore. Our next speaker is the City of Brentwood Mayor Betsy Crossley, who is serving in her second term as Mayor of Brentwood. Mayor Crossley has served the City of Brentwood in many capacities, including as City Commissioner, as a member of the city's Historic Commission, and also as a member of the Planning Commission. Prior to her entry into public service, she was a medical researcher and teacher. Mayor Crossley serves as the County Mayor's citizen representative to the Williamson County Council of Economic Development and also serves as a member of the Tennessee Local Development Authority. Please welcome the City of Brentwood Mayor Betsy Crossley.
Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel and Ted. Appreciate the opportunity to come together this afternoon and be able to celebrate providing a safer future for our communities in the Harpeth River watershed. For Brentwood, the plan will focus on the Little Harpeth, where many of our homeowners and businesses could certainly be affected again by a major flood event. In comparison to the surrounding communities, the major impacts of the May 2010 flood in Brentwood were thankfully much less numerous. There were several contributing factors to that, including the very relatively low density of development that we have in Brentwood, the stringent stormwater management regulations already in place, and the excellent planning and engineering practices exercised by Brentwood over the last several years. As a result, only 3 homes in Brentwood have been determined to be substantially damaged by the flood or with a 50% or greater damage in the structure. But there were a number of other homes in other pockets of the city that reported damage which was significant, although not considered necessarily substantial by definition. Some of the other homes that reported damage were located in the regulated floodplain. However, many that reported some level of damage or are not shown in the current floodplain map. Regardless, the loss of any substantial damage to any of our residents' homes is certainly a tragedy. Additionally, there are areas where previous flood studies were limited in scope, but it is apparent that additional floodplain exists beyond the currently mapped areas. By joining this study, Brentwood will work with Corps of Engineers to identify areas of the city where it appears additional flood studies warranted or could be beneficial. The benefit of further defining the limits of the floodplain include the opportunity for homeowners in these areas to purchase flood insurance before a future flood event. And importantly, once these areas are recognized as a floodplain, they'll be regulated under the city's flood management plan and policies. These policies address elevation of structures in the floodplain, including the location and the elevation of mechanical and electrical services to these structures. Managing improvement of the structures will serve to limit damage to any future flood events and protect the residents who invested and who live in these homes. It's ultimately in the best interest of our residents to know whether or not they're at risk of flood. Being aware that their homes in the floodplain provide for homeowners the opportunity to prepare for, rather than being surprised by, a future flood event. Brentwood's close participation in the joint study with the Corps of Engineers will help ensure that the results accurately reflect the true flood threats to the Brentwood community. Hopefully, after the completion of this joint study, we will never witness anything close to the devastation caused by the 2010 flood.
Thank you, Mayor Crossley. Mayor Rogers Anderson was not able to be with us here today, and we are pleased that Williamson County will be represented today by Joe Horne. Joe has served as the Williamson County Community Development Director since 2002, after serving as the Williamson County Planning Director from 1991 until 2002. Please join me today in welcoming Community Development Director Joe Horne.
As Roger alluded to, I want to ask Mayor Rogers Anderson's regard to this group. Mayor Anderson would love to be here based on the meeting that he's going to, because I don't think that particular meeting is one he would want to attend. But what I do want to say on behalf of Mayor Anderson, that probably the major lesson we learned from the 2010 flood is that neighbors will help neighbors without a great deal of encouragement. In unincorporated Williamson County, the extent of the damage was not near as catastrophic as that witnessed in Nashville and Franklin and surrounding communities. But what it did speak to is in the future, we need to go forward with the best knowledge we can develop so that the next event won't be as devastating as the 2010 flood. And we hope to go forward the same way that we did in 2020, which was with neighbors helping neighbors. On behalf of County Mayor Rogers Anderson, I'd like to state that Williamson County government looks forward to this partnership, and we appreciate everything that everyone's done here for the common good of this region. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeff. Our last speaker today will be Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County Mayor Karl Dean. Mayor Dean was first elected in 2007 and again in 2011. His priorities are improving schools, making neighborhoods safer, and bringing more and better jobs to the area. He also works extensively to sustain and improve Nashville's high quality of life through numerous initiatives to promote health, sustainability, and volunteerism. But aside from priorities and initiatives, Mayor Dean has overseen a lengthy and costly recovery from a flood of epic proportions, implementing a series of improvements that are intended to make our city a safer place to live. While we may never see an event of the magnitude of the flood of 2010, we were reminded less than 2 weeks ago that a superstorm cell, if that pauses over small drainage basins, can wreak havoc on the lives and businesses of our residents. Please join me today in welcoming Mayor Karl Dean.
Well, thank you, Roger, for that kind introduction, and Mayors Betsy, Ken, Joe, good to be with you all. Colonel, good to have you here, and I'm particularly excited about the Colonel because he's a Red Sox fan. That's a good thing. We've heard a lot today about the Harpeth River study, which will be important to safeguarding our area from future flooding. But I'm particularly pleased that the Corps has also provided full federal funding for a study of Mill Creek and a first year of federal funding for the Cumberland River study. All three of these waterways are critical in developing a larger plan for flood preparedness in Davidson County. Metro put in a lot of hard work after the catastrophic 2010 flood to make our city safer. Our water department has installed additional stream gauges to give us real-time information about water levels. We had a very successful voluntary home buyout program. We developed an interactive online tool called Nashville Emergency Response Viewing Engine, NERV for short, which provides real-time information on road closures, evacuation areas, shelters, and other resources during emergencies. We've done a lot, but there is still a lot of work to do. These feasibility studies are the next logical step to better prepare our area for future flooding. We got a reminder of just how important flood preparedness can be during the flash floods that occurred in northern Davidson County just 2 weeks ago. As most of you know, the flood of 2010 has been characterized as a 1,000-year flood. However, that does not mean that it will only occur every 1,000 years. On August 8th of this year, portions of North Davidson County received 4.47 inches of rain in 60 minutes, which exceeded the 1,000-year flood level. So we have experienced, just in the course of approximately 3 years, 2 1,000-year flooding events, and which underscores the need for preparedness and flood mitigation. These important feasibility studies will help bring our communities the long-term solutions that we are looking for. I know for many families, those solutions cannot come soon enough. This announcement today is a clear demonstration of the active work that is going on. After the May floods, Metro officials worked with federal and state officials, nonprofit organizations, and other community stakeholders to prepare the Unified Flood Preparation Plan. The UFPP was a collaborative effort to identify and evaluate flood damage reduction measures on the Cumberland River and its 5 major tributaries: the Harpeth River, Whites Creek, Browns Creek, Mill Creek, and Richland Creek. The UFPP determined potential ways to prevent future flooding in areas across our city that have the highest flooding potential. The work done in the UFPP will be the basis upon which the Corps will build on the feasibility study of the Cumberland River, which will include studying Browns, Whites, and Richland Creek. When completed, we will have recommendations about which potential mitigation measures will best help us prevent further disasters. These recommendations could range from building levees and flood walls to establishing home buyout programs to making channel modifications. I want to thank the U.S. Corps of Army Engineers for working with us to undertake these important studies. Metro, for our part, has already committed funds to move these 3 studies forward. They are an important step in our ongoing efforts to keep Nashville even safer. I know we all look forward to seeing the results. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Dean. From the comments that we've heard today, it is obvious that the Harpeth and the Cumberland River studies that we launched today are vitally important to the future of this geographical area, especially as they relate to protection of life and preservation of property. The partnerships between the Corps and the cities of Nashville, Brentwood, Franklin, and Williamson County are a great asset as we all work together to solve water resource-related issues within these drainage basins. Additionally, in future public meetings and communications, we expect significant involvement from other resource agencies present today, such as the Harpeth River Watershed Association, Doris here back to you back. Also the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and other agencies. The Cumberland River Compact will participate in providing additional input to these studies. We thank you all for coming today. This will conclude our formal presentation. As I mentioned earlier, we will have subject matter experts located at boards around the room so that they can answer further questions. On behalf of the Corps of Engineers, Nashville, Brentwood, Franklin, and Williamson County, we thank you for your attendance today and for your support of these studies. Thank you very much.